Alrighty, this is it. The last Scream film leading in to Scream 2022. So, after having reviewed the previous three films, basically like the original run of films, because this one was several years after part 3,
Mm-hmm.
2011, Scream 4. So, this is bringing it back to, of course, the original, playing on the tropes of just horror films in general and revitalizing things at the same time. Second being sequels, third being trilogies. This one playing off of the remake reboot craze that was happening at the time and still pretty much happening now, just maybe in different forms, like going back and like inserting sequels into the middle of timelines and stuff like that. So yeah, so this is very much playing off of that, which makes perfect sense considering the realm of Scream and the things that it plays off of, like I said before. And so, just playing off of that, how did you feel about this one?
Um, I liked it better than the last one for sure. I mean, obviously, she looked a little more normal with this hair because it was so bad. Um,
I would hope so. After 11 years, they'd get that.
yeah, this
Um,
this one was
I mean, by
much
this point, you could
better.
tell she's also like had work done and stuff, but she looks good though. She looked good though. So I can't
Yeah,
say it
yeah.
didn't look bad. Like it could easily go south. But I'm just saying, but she looked.
No,
But
this one was
but the hair is infinitely better for sure.
yeah
Yeah.
better
Mm,
better than before.
yeah. All right, so I mean, the film starts off. I mean, it's a film within a film within a film. They kind of do these two cop out intros, basically showing you that this is opening of like a stab 6 and then a stab 7, and then you go into that actual intro of the film. Of course, being very meta and like just playing off of the whole like sequels and reboots and all this other stuff. How did you feel about that opening? Did you feel it was maybe too much, or did it
It was
play, or was it fun
it's
enough
par
for
for the
you?
course because you expect that sort of thing from these movies.
Yeah.
I wasn't annoyed. I wasn't mad at it. I mean, I was just watching. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it made sense or anything, but it makes sense when you think about it from the Scream movies' perspectives. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
he had a couple of cameos in there in the
Oh,
second
yeah.
sequence, like was it Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin from True
Yeah.
Blood and stuff. So you had that, and yeah, once you get to the actual opening sequence, yeah, it's like it's kind of par for the course of Scream, just kind of your opening kills. And it's not really like a surprise opening kill like how the previous ones were. I mean, obviously, like by like the second and third film, you kind of understood what they were going for because the original, obviously being a star like Drew Barrymore, you kill her off and stuff, and then you had the whole big theater sequence, and then you had like a big returning character and an actor like Liev Schreiber get killed off in three. Like these ones, I look more random girls, but obviously it's just kind of to up the ante and to kind of play with your expectations. Is doing the whole, oh well, this is stab and then this is stab, but no, this is the real thing now, so we're just kind of doing that and just
Mm-hmm.
really playing with that meta element. So after that, this is when we realize that, okay, well, Sydney at this point in her life, she's written a book. What was it, Out of Darkness, I think it was.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and so yeah, so she's written that book, just kind of going into that side where we didn't really see her go before, where she was kind of like trying to be an actress or some in some sense of the word, and at the same time trying to help people. This is kind of like a combo of those two, and it kind of makes sense for her to be at this point to have written this book and then just kind of going about her daily life. And then Dewey is at this point the sheriff, and of course him and Gail have been married all this time, and then Gail herself, she's kind of having like writer's block and stuff. She's just kind of itching to kind of get that feel again of her just kind of, being the know it all, being the one on the story and all that. So, how did you feel about picking up, with them at this point in time?
Like starting from the little book signing bit and
Yeah,
going
pretty
forward from
much.
there. Okay. Um, good for her for trying to, really well and truly move past all this stuff and,
Mm-hmm.
talking about, writing about, whatever your experience is always therapeutic, no matter what your experience was, what kind of trauma, mental, physical. It, I'm kind of getting a little real. It helps. If you have someone to talk to, or you do
Mm-hmm.
little video blogs or whatever you want to call it, it helps. So
Mm-hmm.
she's obviously written this nice book explaining, self help, chicken soup for the soul, or sort of things, and you can't help but be proud of her. Like, good for you, Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, her publicist is just kind of meh. But then you feel kind of bad for Gail because, like, well, she had that first book that was, so good or whatever, and then it's like, well, she just
Yeah, I
wants
mean the
a
thing
piece of
is
the pie.
with Gail's book at that time, especially. I mean, she was clearly just kind of trying to like capitalize
Oh
off of a
yeah,
lot, especially because we her characters actually say be like, this bit is clearly exaggerated, like with Dewey and stuff like that, and even lying there, cameraman, how he died and stuff like that, like little lines thrown out. And so yeah, this is more, I guess, pure like autobiographical type of deal with Sydney. So, and I will say this is that I actually watching it this last time, I really liked Gail a lot more. I feel for some reason. I don't know why, but I feel like she was kind of the standout
she
of the
seemed
original
more
three in this one.
real.
And it's in
You
a way
know,
probably yeah. I mean she's grown quite a bit throughout the previous films, but in this one, I don't know. She just had like a little extra something about, especially at this stage in her
because
life and
you
with
know
all the
what? Because you can
characters.
kind of relate to her. Because
Because
we're all kind of like in a rut, and you just want to like do something or accomplish something, and she's just like,
yeah, like
I want
even
to
though
do a thing.
like she's one of those characters that you see in other movies where it's like they can never like let go, like despite the dangers, despite like the madness that can come with certain events like this,
Mm-hmm.
that's just who she is. You
Mm-hmm.
realize that is that she doesn't mind like just being in the trenches of this craziness just to try to, you know, figure it out and just to solve it and just, yeah, even if fame comes with it, but you can tell though she just kind of like enjoys like just
She
finding
wants to
this like
Scooby Doo this bitch. So
exactly, yep, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and so this is when we also start getting introduced to the new generation of characters in this film, mostly made up of Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, Rory Culkin. The rest I don't really know overall. The one kid like with like the headset on his head, he was actually Daniel from Saw 2.
I
If you
thought so.
Yeah,
I'm like, that person looks familiar. Why?
yeah, that was
So there we go.
yeah. And so like this is where it comes to a point where even if like a movie is like very well written, you have like good young talent, it's always hard, at least for me. I just feel like for some reason newer generation actors they just don't quite have that impact as maybe for some reason the supposed teen actors of those times. Because I always felt like how they say like yeah, people look for diverse characters today. Like I mean, for as far as like diverse characters back then, like they just felt more real and they felt more like just like because you had like the Skeet Ulrich's who's like yeah that bad boy type. He's got the hair and everything. You have the Jamie Kennedys, the kind of like dorky nerdy guy, but still like a decent looking guy. And then you had like the Matthew Lillards, who's just like a straight up goofball and like lanky type. I just felt like in terms of characters, they always felt more normal, like more natural, as opposed to like typical, I guess you could say CWS casting of a lot of these newer movies do. And so that's why I always feel like it's always tricky with these newer generation actors coming in. But as far as like this general group, they really aren't too bad. Like I feel like it's one of the better collective of like newer generation actors.
Right.
So how do you feel about the newer cast overall in this film?
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, if I'm just scrolling on my phone for a second here, looking for a little Uh-oh. Okay. Give me just a sec. I'm gonna answer your question. I just wanna click on the one girl. And that makes sense. I was gonna say, I know the other newer, younger crowd in this movie, the teenagers, as it were, they're all right, I suppose. But thinking back on it and knowing what I know now and watching Emma Roberts, I'm like, well, yeah, obviously she's a scream queen. And then that didn't happen for, another few years after this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I mean,
of course, she is related to Julia Roberts and them, like her father's Eric Roberts.
Whatever. I don't care.
No, I mean she stands out enough.
Good. Yeah, she obviously knows her stuff, and that's all I could think was like, scream queens. Yeah. Just scream queens.
Yeah, and part of part to my point, I just feel like also because I feel like a lot of like newer generation actors, I feel like most of them are like you can't really pick them out of a lineup most of the time. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is I just feel like the way that actors looked at least back then with these types of movies, you can differentiate them a hell of a lot more than I feel like your average like younger. I don't know why like
cookie cutters.
Yeah, basically is my point. But with this film, it doesn't really go that route. Like even like a Hayden Panettiere, it's like she's been around quite a bit, and even she has like enough like standout qualities about her where she doesn't really blend in as much. And because she's meant to be like the new Randy in this one, of course, like the female version of that. How did you feel about her character?
I liked
Did
her.
you feel like she was a quality replacement? Yeah. See, because she's actually quite the fan favorite since this film came out. Like this film overall, it seems like it's kind of 50-50. Some fans will either like find it really good, like maybe
the
one
name,
of the best, if not
the character,
best.
The hair, it all, the look. It all like worked for me.
Yeah. Like I said, for some reason to me, she didn't stand out as much as what I felt like most people did. This recent viewing, like I said, just being more fresh, especially watching them all back to back and going into this next one. I liked her a lot more personally, and I feel like honestly I liked the film as a whole a lot more, because I remember like my initial viewing, I remember enjoying it, especially once you get towards the end. But we'll get to that. I just felt like it just didn't strike me as much. This time in particular, I felt like it resonated a bit more for me personally. And also because I feel like it is, some would say, probably slightly ahead of its time even then, even though it was playing off for like reboots and stuff. It was still 2011 where there was still a lot of infancy as far as like the technology and the way that people go about that sort of thing. If you look at it now, it's just as relevant, if not even a little bit more to a certain extent. It probably plays a lot better now than probably what it did even then. Would you say you'd agree, or?
I would think so. Because, well, yeah, I was just thinking about the dude doing the video blog. Oh, excuse me. With the headset or glasses, but then my mind made the parallel to Halloween Resurrection. So I'm like, that one's like a guilty pleasure. But anyway, that was a few years before that for sure.
Oh, that was 20. So, that was 2002. That was like 9 years before. Yeah.
Wow.
That was only a couple years after the third one.
So, the technology, it's getting there. So I was trying to draw a parallel to, like, nowadays how people go about doing that, and it's like selfie sticks and all that.
Yeah,
so,
putting on, like they said in the movie, like
I think I like the whole headset or glasses thing.
Like, basically just putting your whole life online, just filming yourself like 24/7 and stuff like that.
Basically, yeah.
It's like, it's just as relevant now.
Nailed it
for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it was only just. Can't believe I'm saying it. It was only 10 years ago, but
that's the thing about this one. That this one feels like it should not have been 10 years ago. It really doesn't, but it was. It's just like, damn, it's crazy already. But
trust me, I know.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the kills in this one? Because like I said, this Scream series as a whole, they don't really do a lot of cleverness with the kills. It's mostly stabbing.
Oh
This
yeah.
one, I mean, just to like the one kill with the girl in the bedroom, and he comes out of the closet and everything. He's just like, I gotta say I was in your closet.
Oh,
Um,
that sequence was really good. I
yeah, the
like
way
that
that they
one.
played that one up and like I said made the stab like the whole sequence a bit more violent and just kind of like raw. I'm like, that was pretty good and suspenseful
Michael
the way that
Myers.
yeah, and even those two cops, like one of them being Anthony Anderson. I think the other one was Adrian. No, not Adrian Brody, but I think his last name was Brody or something. Like when he just stabs him straight in the head, and he's just like he
Yeah.
gets out of the car, he's just swinging. And it's like that
I
is
that I was trying to suspend my beliefs on, but I'm like,
well. The thing is, I was
d-
listening to another review earlier today, and they had brought up the point that Wes Craven, because like so he'll take real life things and put them in. He said that Wes had saw something where a dude was actually like stabbed in the head, and for a brief moment afterwards, he was actually like swinging and shit. So supposedly that's based off of an actual
okay,
possibility. So that's
okay,
Wes if that's what he's. Hey.
sure. I mean, if he had his facts checked, then
I mean,
okay.
because that was a lot of the inspiration for the original Nightmares, just stuff like that, like people coming over on these boats and stuff, having nightmares, and then just dying in their sleep and stuff. So, I mean, Wes will play a lot of reality into his films. Like, there's gonna be
All
some
right.
sense of, something like that
But
in
he
it.
he kind of went for what seemed like forever
Well,
after
yeah, I
being
mean, yeah,
stabbed in the
obviously,
head.
like as far as like
So
especially with like the comedic tone at the end, it's like fuck Bruce Willis.
okay, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. And so, okay, so getting to another later mid sequence here is that when all the kids like they have the stabathon thing going on, and this is where you can actually get footage from the movie version stab from part two in there and stuff like that. So a lot of just great little visual things like that. And so you'll have Gail going in there trying to investigate. She's setting up all these webcams and stuff, kind of like what they did in the original film when they placed the camera and they're watching all the kids and stuff. And so you have that whole thing set, and she has the mask on for a brief moment. And she's like putting thumbs up and stuff, and just moving around all funny. And this makes actually for a really good sequence looking back on it. Um, that Ghostface is turning the cameras around inside, and then she's going to go and look, and then she's holding the camera. You can see Ghostface, and then Dewey sees it on the. Like I said, it's just like a nice like kind of throwback to the first movie and stuff, and then where you feel like this is a potential scene where she could get killed, but she doesn't. She just gets stabbed in the shoulder. How do you feel about this sequence and playing with the cameras and all of that stuff?
Her setting them up or
Well, just like the sequence as a
Ghostface.
whole, like yeah, the suspense factor and all of that.
Yeah, it's like she had them all set up, and then we're looking at the monitors, like, and you see them like being turned, switched off, whatever you want to call it, and it's like, the hell? How does anybody know where they are besides her? And then you find out, obviously, it's him,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have a scuffle. I mean, she's not gonna die, but she's gonna take a hit, which is still pretty gnarly, and then rolling off the lid, bouncing, rolling off the ledge.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, good on you.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And another character, her publicist, that was Cindy's publicist, also gets killed. Yeah, nice little stabbing to the gut. Then later you see her get dropped down on top of the van and everything, and it's just like, yep, that's gonna leave a hell of an impact. And so the cut to the end of the film. Let's just go into this sequence.
Okay.
There's a lot that just is just straight up. Okay, so the ending of this film, all the kids are just at the house and everything, like a lot of stuff like in the original film. And if one thing is as an Easter egg, you'll notice is that the boyfriend, Trevor, he's actually dressed identical to Sydney's father in the original when he was all tied up and everything, jacket and all. If you actually pay attention to that, and you see what happens to him later on. It's just
Hmm.
like, so you have that. And now getting to the reveal here, we see for the first reveal that it's actually Charlie, Rory Culkin, and he stabs Hayden Panettiere after this whole quiz over the phone ordeal that they usually do. And it's just like rattling up, like said, like name the remake of this blah blah film. She just starts like rattling off like every
All of
single
them.
horror like
All of
remake
them.
that's been
Yeah.
done up until that point, which is a shit ton. And it's just like, yeah. Um, and so, like right after that sequence, she unties him because he's taped up to the chair, like in the first movie, the opening, Drew Barrymore, and all that stuff. And okay, so you have that reveal now. As far as like that reveal, did that work for you at all?
Uh, I didn't see it coming. I mean, I don't know if that was like good or bad that I couldn't see it coming, but I'm like, I don't purposefully look at movies to look for those sort of things. I just watch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, nah, I didn't know. I mean, you kind of got to like them a little bit, and then it's like, whoop, switch it.
Yeah. Okay, and then shortly after that, we get to the next reveal. And well, I will say this. In an earlier moment, like just with the general, you see how ready like that Sydney is to take on the next ghost face. It's just like because before, like when the first attack happens, uh, I mean, she just jumps right up and she's like almost like standing face to face with Ghostface. Like she's like ready to fucking go. She didn't care
Yeah.
at this point, like yeah, fine, screw you. And then like the moment when she's like going up the steps, she kicks him, his ass just fucking just floats down to the stairs.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I mean, just stuff like that. And so you get to the end here. She confronts Ghostface yet again, and this is the reveal where we realize that it is actually Emma Roberts, her cousin. Of course, is who she's playing in this film. So blood related. Yet another family member that's completely fucked up. And so, I mean, because I'm gonna say this, it's like once you get to the end of the first three films, it's just like, yeah, she had that whole series of events. She had to deal with five killers over three separate incidences and all this other stuff. Not to mention all this stuff prior to with her mother and that crap. And you're just like, wow, that was a screwed up time of my life. I had a screwed up half brother that I didn't know about. Good times. But I feel like once you get to this point, you get to reveal that her like high school fucking cousin, this like young small girl, is completely flipped her shit on top of that. Killed her own mother earlier too in the film. She stabbed her through the fucking mailbox. And, and then you get to this point and you realize just how batshit crazy she is. I'm like, okay, all the other stuff before, that's one thing. But then you get to this and you're just like, fuck me, my family sucks. So how did you feel about that reveal? Because I feel like this is it's a particularly special one, honestly, by comparison to the others in some
Well, yeah, because I
it,
mean, I, well, like I said before, she's kind of got that Scream Queen thing going, but this was pre that. So, um, yeah, I just kind of thought, well, the whole brother thing, I, yeah, that kind of sucks that this keeps happening. Why? Why does my family hate me so much? What I do? Because she's like, no, 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 don't worry about Sydney. I'm sure we've all had the family
well, like I
member
said,
or friend doing that to us.
well, like I
So, you
said, I
know.
mean, like that's the thing though, is that I think this film, even at that time, like I said, playing off remakes, all this other stuff, it seems like it kind of was even just that much more ahead of its time by like at least like I said now like 10 years, because her going through a spiel about like how you think people become famous anymore, and she's like literally just trying to leech off of the life of Sydney, like she's trying to become her, and it actually shows how smart it actually is because that was this whole thing. I mean, it's playing off a remake, and then the new generation trying to replace the old generation, and then just again just playing off of the
Mm-hmm.
actual thing. Like, yeah, now even more so, man. People are freaking crazy online. They'll do anything, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like this storyline. It really like as far as like her motivations, it's a bit of a mishmash of like the previous ones. One of hers also being related to her. One, like I said, just kind of playing up the fame, like with Mickey wanting the trial and all this and that, and just also just purely just being screwed up and deranged, like how Billy and
Yeah,
Stu
there was,
were in
it
this.
really was a little bit of each one.
Yeah, and it like again, just and yet for some reason it just seems like such a like a complete possibility more so than just about anyone else in the previous films as far as like I could see someone trying to do that and actually trying to it's just like it was done so well and like with all the others they just completely chew the scenery once the reveal happens. I'm like she's batshit crazy but this is fucking brilliant. Like I literally remember the first time seeing this in the audience as well, like once she starts hurting herself, like
Yeah, throwing through the table and
It makes
everything.
Billy and Stu almost look sane because they were stabbing the shit out of each other. This bitch takes it to a whole
You
other
hit her with
level.
the phone.
I mean, she
Yeah.
takes it to a whole new level. I mean, because first of all, like I said, prior, like with previous other people, it's just like screw the other killer. I just needed you. You got me from point A to point Z. You're done when she kills Charlie. It's like fuck you. So she starts stabbing herself, fucking throwing her face through through the glass on the wall, slams her body down through the glass table on the floor and shit. Uses her dead boyfriend's hand, which she just shot in the dick and in the head prior to this. Uses his nails, scratches her face, uses his hand, pulls her hair out. Just everything to sell this like insane. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching this for the first time, like yeah, everything else was fine, but up until this point, I was like, "What the fuck am I seeing right now?" And most of the audience was too when we first saw this. Just like, "Damn, this bitch is fucking." How did you feel about all of that? Because they truly do just take it to another level. I'm like, "Damn."
Yeah, I don't think I can really do it any better than that. That was a whole new level. So, I mean, what else can you really say? It was crazy, and it was a whole new level of crazy, even on top of that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
good for
mean,
her. She did really well.
yeah, and it just and even they kind of referenced it earlier, if I'm not mistaken, like saying how the typical endings of a lot of these horror films, like nowadays, just don't cut it. And they just always have to like tack on and do that extra crazy shit. Where it feels like this should have ended at the house. I mean, because even Sydney is like, you believe that she's up practically dead. And then you have like this whole like little mini sequence at the hospital to close out the film. And then because she's been pulled into the hospital, everyone thinking that Jill, yeah, she's the survivor, she's the hero in all of this, just like what she wanted. And then you just find out it's just like, and as Sydney said earlier, they always slip. And then so Sydney just happens to still be alive. And not to mention the fact she had referred to Gail's wound from earlier. And then Dewey going over to talking to Gail, that's when they realize it's just like, wait, how does she know about that? And it's like, oh shit. And then so it sets up this whole like little final sequence at the hospital. How did you feel about this sequence? And what did you think what was happening as far as Sydney kind of believed to be dead, and then they're taking Jill and all this. Like, so how did you feel going in through that whole bit?
Well, honestly, I kind of figured. We, ooh, you know that she's not dead, but I figured it was a possum to somehow get her to trip up and, well, I guess reveal herself or whatever, so she gets caught.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, lo and behold, but her hurting herself and all that was bananas. The knife up against the door frame and just That one was like, ooh. Yeah,
Yeah. As far as like a closing out sequence,
it was good.
yeah, I mean it really is. I feel like they also end it at a very interesting point. Like if you notice the last shot where, and like even before she kills her. Well, first of all, lines like, "Okay, you forgot about the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original," and
That
so
was good.
that's a good way to kind of cap off this ending because like you kind of had that semi-false ending where it feels like, oh, did Jill win, and all this stuff, and then you get to the hospital sequence and you find that after she shoots her, the body's on the floor, and hell even shocks her head, clear, clear, clear.
That was awesome too.
Like yeah, that's the thing about this movie again. It's just like this whole like last like 15, 20 minutes are like some of the greatest shit that they've done, honestly. It's just brilliant. And you realize that she's laying in an identical position as to where she was in the kitchen, like just like face to face on the side like that. And it shows that you can't truly like replace the original. And it's like what they try to do. And so as far as like the ending and like what it's kind of like meant to represent, um, it's really really good actually
Mm-hmm.
because she tried to become Sydney, she failed as always, and then it just goes kind of goes to show that's why you respect and keep the original as is because they could have remade Scream at some point. Scream 4 could have been an actual remake, but like no, it's like it makes sense for it to play off of remakes as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to just remake it. So you feel the same way?
Yeah, I like I said at the beginning, I like this movie better than the last one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because
For sure.
even I felt like it was almost like on the okay side as a whole. But again, like I said with Scream 3, it's kind of like the ending where it leaves you. I'm like for that alone and for the plot points of its in motivation and what they did, because even some would say like, well, the motivation is probably bit. I'm like, no, that's actually rather. No, that's you can grab onto that. It's like that's not that far beyond belief, especially for a
Mm-hmm.
Scream film. Um, but yeah, honestly, this past time, like just finally watching it from start to finish again, it's like I probably like it a little bit more now. I'd say as far as all the other sequels thus far, I'm like it's technically the best one. So I'd probably rank it just below the first one as far as a four and being that solid. What
Right.
about you?
Yeah. No, I don't want to just be a yes man, but and agree to everything, but I actually do agree. It was good. I mean, we'll have to see where the next one falls and,
Mm,
compare them all as a whole.
yeah. Because this was meant to actually be the start of a new trilogy at the
Oh, I'm
time.
sure they'll touch on that in the new one.
Like there was meant to be an actual 5 and 6 after that with Wes Craven and everything, but of course he passed away in 2015. So even
Yeah.
even for that, he probably wouldn't be able to see it all the way through. But this one kind of underperformed at the box office at the time, so therefore that kind of you know put it on ice for a little while after that. It just didn't hit like they were expecting it to. Because I believe even like as an alternate version, like the original ending was meant to be like probably I think Jill actually kind of like getting away with it, so you kind of leave it on a cliffhanger, and I think she would have played a part in like the next like 5 and 6. And I think 5 would have been like where Sydney had amnesia, and then there was like another ghost face kind of stalking Jill at this point. So while she's kind of like playing, the survivor, there's another ghost face, and that would have played the whole thing. And so they had things planned at that time for it to continue, but of course, like I said, and then we're arriving to now. We finally have a new Scream. Of course, no Wes Craven. And it's not Scream 5, it's just Scream. Which even now with Halloween and stuff, it technically makes sense. Candyman, it's just like they're all just literally just the basic name to start with. So that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing. So we'll see what the future holds now and who's the killers, who's gonna live, die. I don't know. Who the hell? I guess we'll see. So, anyway, we'll leave it at that, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.